Hi there, my name is Alex Ames, and over the summer of 2019, I was a feed mill intern for Smithfield Pork Production in Milford, Utah. Today I'm just going to go through kind of what you can expect if you choose to enter into the feed industry as well, and kind of the inner workings of a hog feed mill. So what does a feed mill do? It produces feed for hog barns just like this one. This picture was taken about 20 miles away from the feed mill that I worked in. This is a sow farm, but the feed mill also produced feed for growing units and finishing units as well. So this is the outside of the feed mill. Note the bin deck area right there, the grain bins right there. This is the fat receiving area is over here, and then our receiving shed is clear right over there. This is the loadout area where trucks come in and are loaded out with feed every day. So this is a good picture because it denotes kind of the two differences in the way that we receive ingredients. We receive ingredients by rail car and also truck as well. These are both fat containers, and they are both pumping fat into our fat reserves. Fat is a very crucial part in the hog feed process. It's a very high energy substance, so we go through a lot of fat. This is a Union Pacific General Electric locomotive. Every 2 weeks or so we would either have a corn train or a wheat train, just depending on what kind of ingredients we were going through at the time. These corn trains contained 120 cars. Each car held about 80,000 pounds of either corn or wheat, and it took 3 of these locomotives to move them around the track. And this is just a picture of one of these locomotives inside the receiving shed. Under the train here, there's a grain pit with an auger in it that will transport the ingredients from the receiving shed into the storage bins. This picture was taken on the catwalk, just on the receiving legs. So when the grain comes from those grain pits in the receiving shed, they would travel up these legs and then be dumped on into the storage bins to await grinding. These legs or the elevation above the ground here is about 280 feet. And this is what it looks like under one of those bins. So this is actually inside and underneath one of those. And after the grain is stored, when it's ready to be used, if it's corn or wheat, then it goes into the grinding room. We had 3 hammer mill grinders, and depending on the feed that we were making, the screens inside of these would be different gauge screens, and that would affect the average circumference of each one of the particles coming out of these hammer mills here. Once all the feed is grinded, it returns back into storage, not for very long, because then it'll head into this 8-ton mixer. This mixer will mix 16,000 pounds of feed every 90 seconds. And this is just a top side view of that mixer. The feed enters into the mixer through these surge bins right here, and right above here is the batching area, and scales and computer controlled systems and solenoids will empty just the right amount of ingredients into batching, and then it'll get dumped into the mixer. After it leaves the mixer, it'll head via a series of augers, conveyors, and legs into the pellet mill area. These are the 3 pellet mills that we have. This is pellet mill 1, 2, and 3. And what these pellet mills do is they take the feed that enters in through this conditioner. The conditioner just applies steam and heat to the feed to gelatinize the carbohydrates in there and makes it more digestible. But after it falls from the conditioner, it enters the pellet mill and is pelleted. And all the steam that we use for pelleting, conditioning, any other process that required steam. Another big one was keeping fat fluid during the winter time so it could move through the pipes. All this steam came from two Cleaver Brooks, boilers. And this is just inside of one of those pellet mills. Here we have our rollers right here, and then we've got our pellet die right here. So after the feed entered in through the conditioners, it was dropped into here and pelleted, and just the rotation of these rollers in here would cause the pellets to fall off and head into the feed cooler. These are our two feed coolers. This one's slightly larger capacity than this one. But what the feed cooler does is it cools the feed down by about 40 degrees, and that makes it easier to flow through the system. And then after that, it heads into the fat coater room. These are two APEC fat coaters. So the feed travels through a scale and a surge bin right here, and then it enters into this fat coater where it's coated with fat. Like I said earlier, fat's a very high energy source, so it's a big component of the diet. And then this is the operating room. There's several monitors in here where this particular operator is monitoring all the mills. He's watching pellet mill 3 right there, pellet mill 2, and then batching and mixing is going on right there. This is pellet mill 3, and that's grinding. And then once the feeds exits the fat coaters, it enters into the finished feed bins right above the north and south loadout area. The loadout area is where empty feed trucks would come in, get weighed and tared, and then they would be loaded up with feed and with a specific feed order, and they would take that feed to the barn that it needed to go to. All trucks are owned and operated by Smithfield. So that's kind of it for the inner workings of the mill. Now I'm going to talk a little bit about exactly what I did and just some of the conditions of the internship. So my job day to day, I would just go where I was needed. I did a lot of cleaning at first, a lot of shoveling, sweeping, but then once I kind of proved myself there, I was given a little bit more responsibility. And since this is a very young internship program, I was actually the first feed mill intern to go through the program in Milford, Utah for Smithfield. So there wasn't an internship project or anything like that, but I did. A definite upside of the internship was the hands-off management style. Once the higher up employees and management kind of realized that I was getting my feet under myself a little bit, they gave me a little bit more responsibility. I was responsible for taking part in some of the calibrations of the fat coaters and the fat applied at the die of the pellet mill. We are also going through an upgrade, adding another pellet mill and another hammer mill. So I would help quite a bit with troubleshooting with that. And then when I wasn't doing that, I was working in the receiving shed, unloading ingredients by rail and truck. One of the downsides of the internship is that since it was so young, there wasn't an internship project, which doesn't bother me that much, but part of me just kind of wonders what I would gain had there been one of those. Living conditions, there was a 2-bedroom apartment that Smithfield rented out for myself and another intern who worked at the sow farms. And last but not least, I would definitely recommend this internship to a fellow student if they were considering getting into animal nutrition, feed milling, hogs, anything like that. I would highly recommend a feed mill internship by Smithfield. They have internships in mills all across the country, spanning all the way from California all the way to North Carolina. And that's kind of the story on what it's like working in a feed mill, particularly a Smithfield feed mill. I hope this helps out in your decision. Thank you very much.